Hi, if you're a regular visitor to my website, Education Possible, then you know my family is checking out something new for us this year, a boxed curriculum. I've partnered with BookShark this year to see what their level 8 all subject curriculum is like. I've always been more of an eclectic homeschooler where I kind of picked and chose different curriculum to put together. But more and more families are choosing an all-in-one boxed curriculum to save time and to save money. They're really busy, and this just takes a lot of the legwork out for them, and it makes life a lot easier. So because I want to be the go-to person for you about middle school homeschooling, I figured it was time that I take a look at them as well. So here we go. I've been getting a lot of questions about whether you can use an all-in-one curriculum for middle schoolers like BookShark, and so I wanted to answer some of those questions. So, can an all-in-one curriculum be used by middle schoolers? Absolutely. One of the main differences, I know a lot of you have used them in the past when your kids are younger. You may have as well. But the main difference when their kids are older is how much work they're going to do as opposed to how much work you're going to do. They're going to take a lot of the work on themselves, which makes it even easier for you. So is it possible not to get overwhelmed by the sheer number of books that come with this type of curriculum? You're right. There's a lot of books. This is only a fraction of the stack. There are a lot of books that come with BookShark and these literature-based curriculum. But they're essential to science, history, and language arts. They're an essential part of those subjects. You need these books. We've been using a literature-based curriculum for years to study history and to study language arts. And I can tell you the book list can be overwhelming. The best thing you could do is just take a breath. Look at the books one at a time instead of as a whole, and you'll see that it's more than doable. Remember, it's a full year of lessons in one. The difference is you're going to get everything you need at one time. You just put everything up on a shelf, pull it down as you need it, and then you won't really think about it as you're going through each day, and you'll kind of forget about what's coming per se. Years ago, we used a language arts program. We had switched. I was using different books for different parts of language arts, and I came to one that was all-encompassing. And it came printed on loose-leaf paper. And when it came, it was a block like this that was all sealed. And my kids' eyes were huge. They couldn't believe that we were going to do something like this for the whole year. It was just so overwhelming for them. But I explained to them that it's for the whole year, and it included grammar, it included spelling, it included English, writing, all the things we needed for our English credits. But instead of using different books for different parts of the subject, it was all in this one curriculum. And that made them feel a little bit better. But they were still a little unsure. So what I did, and what I'm encouraging you to do, is I took out the teacher part, and then I took 4 weeks of our lessons, and I put them in individual binders for them. And I put the rest of it up on a shelf, and I only pulled it down when we needed to, so that it was kind of out of sight, out of mind, right? And then you're not thinking about it, and it's easy to keep moving forward with it. And that's just like every other curriculum. So how do you get through all the books? How do you read all these books? So when you're using a literature-rich curriculum like BookShark, there's a couple ways to handle all of the reading. One, you can just give your older kids the books to read on their own. If it's something that you would want to read, maybe read them together. Or if you have a family that is close in age, you have multiple children that are close in age, and you're all kind of reading the same stories, then read together as a family and take turns reading. I used to do this years ago when we were in a book club, and we were obviously all reading, both of my children were reading the same books. So we would take turns reading, and we would mostly do chapter at a time, but my one was a little bit younger, and she didn't like to read out loud as much. And so if she was getting tired, then I would kind of take over. But then no one was reading all on their own. We all took turns, and it was a really great way for me to secretly see their language skills to make sure that they weren't skipping a ton of words, that they were understanding what they were reading, because we were kind of talking about it, and no one got tired of reading. Now my daughter's older, I actually just give her the books and she goes and reads them wherever she wants to, does whatever she needs to, but she reads them on her own. If it is a book that I'm interested in, sometimes I'll read it as well, and then we can kind of talk more, but honestly, a lot of the books I've already read, so it's easy for me to talk to her about it. I don't just let her go and never talk to her about the books, though. I do check in with her, and there's a lot of times she'll come down after reading a chapter and is like, did you know this and this funny thing? And so she kind of gets to me before I even ask her questions about what she's been reading. But that's how I kind of check in with her. I just ask pointed questions with the book, because I know exactly what she's reading for the different subjects, and then it's a way that I can approach her with it. And I love having conversations with her about books. It's always fun. So, science. Will it be hard to do all the science experiments at home? I don't know why homeschool moms are so terrified of science experiments, but they are. So, not at all. One thing I love about BookShark is, with the science, is that teens don't just read about physics, electromagnetism, and waves. They're encouraged to complete a number of related experiments that will engage them and help them understand the material better. I've seen for myself, both at home and in a co-op that I taught science at, that it's important to have the basic science topics come alive for kids through hands-on activities like a lab. There have been a lot of times when kids have come to my co-op class, I taught biology for a few years, that they did not understand what they had been reading at home. And after we got through the experiments, they left class with a firm grasp of what they were supposed to be learning, because they were using different senses and they got to physically do what they were reading about, and it just clicked. All this to say, don't skip the science experiments. I get it, they take work, they can be messy. They're hard to fit into an already busy day. But you know what, with teens, it's even easier. So, and this is where BookShark really shines. I love their science. Everything you need comes with the science program, and it's a handy box. Seriously, all you need to supply are some common household products like paper, scissors, soda cans, glass jars, cardboard, things like that that you're going to be able to find very easily or already have around your house. Everything else is in this box. No more shopping for hard to find ingredients for things for every single science experiment. It's going to be, when you're studying, when you're studying these topics, the physics, the electromagnetism, and the waves, they're going to be replicating a ton of really cool experiments from Aristotle, Isaac Newton, and Albert Einstein. And like I said, now that your kids are older, they can do the experiments on their own. So if you're not a sciencey person, let them have free reign. If you love science like I do, then do it along with them. There's nothing wrong with that. The one thing I would suggest is, if you want your children to do, your teens to do this on their own, do the first couple with them so that you can make sure that they're following the instructions, they understand what what you want them to complete, and then you can also help them write that lab report, because learning how to write a lab report is crucial. Then once you see, you go through a couple of experiments and they're getting it, let them do it on their own. They're learning skills that they desperately need as adults and for when they get into college, high school and college, and giving them that chance. This is an easy way to give them a chance to do that. So, should you add hands-on activities to your lesson plans? I firmly believe that middle schoolers learn best when their lesson plans are full of fun, hands-on activities. There are some that are included in the curriculum, but if you're looking for more, they're very easy to add because the curriculum is very customizable. That's one thing that's great about this program. You can do whatever you need to. Use as much of it or as little as you would like. I've always done that with ours as well. So what are some of the things you can add to BookShark's curriculum? So for history, visit a planetarium when astronomy is being discussed. Like I said, you're going to be learning through history, through science. You're going to be learning about all these great inventors and everything that they gave to our society and kind of what they walked through. So you're going to be covering all kinds of really cool subjects. Perform a density test when you're reading about Archimedes. I have one on the blog. We did it many years ago, and we're going to repeat it because again, it was years ago and Mariana doesn't really remember it all that well. So it's easy to do something like that to add into your actual, it seems like a science, but it also relates to history. Put together a visual report. So there's a lot of writing in this, but ask them to do something on PowerPoint or any type of visual media that they like to use, and you can use that when you talk about all the different power types. So solar power, the light bulb, electricity, everything that people were inventing throughout the years, they can put into this report for you. Learn Morse code as you're studying communications in 1800s. Create an optical illusion as part of an art project when you're studying Einstein. So what about language arts? Build a replica of one of the cottages from the Gamage Cup. It's one of the books that they'll be reading. And Mayan used to love doing that. When we were in book club, we would try to build all these we would make these 3D maps, and we would try to build these caves and things like that would relate to stories. Write a poem as you're reading through a child's anthology of poetry. Paint or draw a picture of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in one body as you're reading about that character. You can create your own bow and arrow when you're reading about Robin Hood and his merry band of thieves. So how does this work with teens? Who actually follows the lesson plans? In our house, it's both of us. I sit down and I decide on a big picture plan for the semester, and then I break it down into months. Then Mariana and I get together and we lay out the months into weeks. She has her planner, so she just uses a planner like this, and then we look at what days she has for school. Then we look at what needs to be completed, and she kind of plugs them in. Sometimes she'll put exactly what chapters or exactly what parts of the book, and sometimes she'll just write history because she knows she just kind of is following sequentially throughout her notebook. So she'll plug those into her planner. So if for example, she has to read an entire book for history within, let's say, 2 weeks, she'll see how many chapters there are and how long they are and figure out how many days and therefore weeks it should take her to finish. And then she puts those into her planner and kind of spells it out for herself, so that way she knows, all right, today I have to read this much, and if she gets behind, she can kind of add on to that as well. And then she'll list the chapter under history sometimes, and like I said, sometimes she'll just have history. But she writes that all down in her own planner that she checks off. So I do big picture, we break it down, she puts the breakdown into her planner. And why do we do that? Because I don't care how stuff gets done as long as it gets done. It gives her the freedom. Sometimes she wants to be finished by Thursday because she wants to go to a park on Friday, or she wants to hang out with friends on Friday. And there's other times where she has all weekend and she needs something off in the beginning of the week, so she'll kind of push it that way. It gives her these skills of planning and executing and actually follow through that I want her to have. So the more responsibility I can give her, the better off she's going to be. And this type of curriculum is the best way to start giving them that responsibility as teens. She learns about consequences, learns about procrastination, learns about getting things done and being rewarded with time when she gets everything knocked out faster than she's expecting. Everything they need to know before college. So I want to encourage you, if you're using this with your older kids, give them as much of the responsibility as you possibly can. It saves you time and energy. It gives them skills that are crucial for them. So as you can see, all-in-one curriculum can work very well for teens. If you want to know more about what comes with BookShark, Level 8 All Subject, I actually talked about that on the website not that long ago, so educationpossible.com, so go check that out. And I share kind of what I found inside when we opened up our box. And it's a lot. My 15-year-old, if you saw our Instagram post, my 15-year-old actually fit inside the box once we took everything out and put it up on shelves. It's a big box because everything you need is right there. So I share about what's in it and then who should be using a curriculum like this. So let me know if I can answer any questions about BookShark, an all-in-one literature-based curriculum, or anything else related to homeschooling middle schoolers. I'm happy to help you find what works for you and your family. See you soon. Thanks. Is that better?
Yes.
It's 14 minutes.
That's good.
I feel like I looked around a lot, but
Doesn't matter. Most people do when they're doing stuff.